الحمد لله الذي إليه مصائر الخلق وواقب الأمر نحمده على عظيم إحسانه ونير برهانه ونوامر فضل امتنانه حمدا يكون لحقه قضاء ولشكره أداء ولا صوابه موجبا ولحسن مزيده مقربا الصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين راحة للعاشقين والمراد المشتاقين شمس العارفين والسراج السالقين نبيه مصباح والعلم صاحب الجود والكرم والله حافظه وجبرائيل خادمه والبراق مركبه سدرة المنتهى مقامه كاب قوسين محبوب رب المشرقين والمغربين جد الحسن والحسين مولانا ومولاي الثقلين أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
ثم الصلاة والسلام على جميع أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين المنتخبين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم منكر فضائلهم غاصب حقوقهم ومراتبهم ومنزلتهم ومقامهم من يومنا هذا إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله الحكيم في قرآنه الكريم وهو أثبت القائلين قوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتخذوا بطانة من دونكم لا يعلونكم خبالا ودوا ما عنتم صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعجل فرجه. Allah Azza wa Jal here in the Quran, He says, O believers, do not associate closely with others who wouldn't miss a chance to harm you. Surah Al-Imran. First of all, He's telling us, just be careful of who you sit with, be careful of who you associate with, be careful of who you're around. Why? Because not everyone has your best interests at heart. Not everyone has what is best for you in their eyes. Not everybody wants what is best for you, and that's a fact of life. There's all sorts of different reasons somebody might not want what's best for you. It might be they want to be better than you, their own jealousy, their own ego. It might be that for whatever reason they dislike you. It could be because you're a Muslim, it could be because you're a Shia, it could be anything. All sorts of reasons why people might not like you. All sorts of reasons why people might want to harm you. Allah Azza wa Jal here in Surah Al-Imran, He's saying, be careful of those people. Watch out for those people. And when we say that, we have to be careful of who we trust. Our complete and utter trust is only in Allah Azza wa Jal. We trust our parents, we trust our family, we trust our friends, all on different levels, right? So, for instance, you might trust your parents more than you trust your brothers and sisters. Or, you know, at the age that most of you guys are at, you might actually trust your brothers and sisters more than you trust your parents. But trust me, your parents are better. Then you've got your friends who you trust very closely, but not as much as your family. Again, that might not be the case for you right now. You may feel like you trust your friends more, and you might feel like that because there's certain things you'll tell your friends that you wouldn't tell your family, certain things you'd say in front of your friends that you wouldn't say in front of your parents. But, above everything, the trust we have in Allah Azza wa Jal is more than the trust we have for anybody else. Is more than the trust we have for any human, any person, anything. And there's a reason for that. Allah Azza wa Jal has three very distinct qualities that mean we can trust Him. The first quality is that He's all-knowing. Allah Azza wa Jal knows everything there is to know. So if there's something wrong, and you want, for instance, if there's something wrong and you want help with that particular problem, with that issue, let's say, for instance, I don't know, you've hurt your foot. Are you going to go to a mechanic or an engineer? Or are you going to go to a doctor? Why would you go to a doctor? Because the doctor knows how to help, right? So you go to the doctor because the doctor knows how to help. That's the first thing. Allah Azza wa Jal is all-knowing. No matter what problem we're facing, Allah Azza wa Jal knows the solution. The second thing is, Allah Azza wa Jal is Al-Qadir, he has power over everything. For instance, if you've hurt your foot, and let's say you've hurt it quite bad, let's say you've broken your foot, and you can tell it's broken, like it's hanging off, like there's no doubt this is a broken foot. Are you going to go to the doctor in the hospital, or are you going to go to a retired doctor who just sits at home? You're going to go to the doctor in the hospital. Why? They're both doctors, they both have the knowledge and know what needs to be done, but only one of them has the power to help you, because the doctor in the hospital has the tools to help you. The doctor in the hospital can apply a cast and do whatever needs to be done. He has the tools, he has the power to help you. And then the third one is, Allah Azza wa Jal is Ar-Rahman, Allah Azza wa Jal is beneficent, Allah Azza wa Jal loves us. So He wants what is best for us. Now, again, going back to the doctor and your broken foot, if you happen to know, for whatever reason, somehow you've come to find out that this doctor hates you, are you going to go to that doctor? Are you going to trust him to fix your broken foot? If, for whatever reason, you found out this doctor hates you with a passion, don't know what it is you did, but this doctor does not like you. Now see, Allah Azza wa Jal has the three attributes we need. When we're looking for help in someone, when we're looking to trust someone, when we're looking to place our belief in someone. I'm not talking about belief in the sense that I believe Allah Azza wa Jal exists. I mean, I believe that Allah will help me. We need these three things, and we need all three of them. They need to know how to help me, they need to be able to help me, and they need to want to help me. If any one of those things isn't there, then I'm looking in the wrong place for help, right? So, when it comes to trusting people, we have to look for these three things in people as well. But see, here's the deal. Oftentimes, when we're posting online, oftentimes when we're talking online, we kind of ignore who our audience is. We kind of ignore who we're posting to. Who's watching your story, or who's looking at your tweets, or who's looking at your TikTok, or who's seeing what you're posting out there, right? We kind of ignore that because all we really see is me posting. You might see the people who like it initially, if you don't get many likes, if you don't get many retweets, if you don't get many kind of views on your story, you can see who it is roughly, but oftentimes we forget who exactly that might be. Recite Allah sallallahu alaihi Muhammad wa I forgot to drink water while I was preparing today, so now I have to have a whole bottle. We're looking at how we look at the people who see what we post. And what we have to maintain, what we have to bear in mind when we're posting. This first thing, going back to ayah Allah Azza wa Jalla, we have to be able to trust who we're speaking to. So be careful of what you say and where you say it. For instance, if I were to come up here on this minbar and start telling you guys all my deepest, darkest secrets, that wouldn't be very wise, because I have no control now where those go, what happens with those, right? But fair. The first point I'm going to look at when it comes to looking at what we post online is the fact that we do have to maintain a certain image in Islam. You do have to look at what image you present to the world. You do have to look at what people see of you, right? And there's a beautiful example of this where our Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, a few of his companions came to his house, or they came outside, and they were waiting to go somewhere with the Prophet. So the Prophet, while they're waiting, before he leaves, he takes a bowl of water and he starts kind of sticking his hair back, he starts combing his beard, making sure he looks good. So the wife of the Prophet at the time comes to the Prophet and says, even you care about all this stuff? Even you care about, looking good and looking nice and whatnot? And the Prophet turns around and he says, well, of course. Why wouldn't I? You have to present yourself in the best image you can. You have to present yourself in the best light you can. Because you face so many different opinions. So many people have an opinion of you in life, right? And we're going to look at, later on in the lecture, whose opinions matter. But just here, just to gloss over, you do face so many opinions. You face opinions from your family, so your parents, they'll always have an opinion and have something to say. You'll face it from your brothers and sisters, your siblings. You'll face it from wider family, uncles, aunties, cousins. They all have an opinion, they all have something to say. You'll face opinions from your friends. They'll have something to say. They'll have their 2 cents to put in. You'll face opinions from your community around you. Everybody will have something to say. That's natural. That's just the way the world works, whether we like it or not. Everybody has an opinion. And they will have opinions based on all sorts of things. How you're doing in school, who you hang out with, where you go, where you're seen, what you're doing. Everyone will have an opinion on everything you do, right? And that includes here, like we see in the hadith of the Prophet, that includes how you look as well. If you leave your house looking shabby, people will see you and they'll form an opinion on that. And it only takes one interaction with somebody for them to form an opinion, right? It only takes you meeting somebody once and leaving a bad impression, or even just not the impression that they wanted, the kind of standard they held you to. It only takes one meeting, one impression for people to then decide, you know what, he is just permanently like this. They saw you popping out to Tesco's one time, just dressed in, I don't know, your nightie, dressed in like a onesie or something. I don't know if any of you wear onesies to be fair, but they saw you dressed shabby going to Tesco, just to the corner shop, just to get a bit of milk. And now all of a sudden, in their mind, you're the guy that just always dresses like that. You're the guy that they saw dressed shabby. And that's how they see you, because that's how they interact with you. All of these opinions, they do exist. Like I said, whether we like them or not, they exist. But then whose opinions matter? Whose opinions do we actually need to look out for? Do we need to care about? Of course, I'm going to say the most important opinion that we need to worry about is Allah Azza wa Jalla. What Allah thinks of us, it does matter. The status we hold in Allah Azza wa Jalla's eyes, it is important. It's key to everything we do. And everything we do should be based off of Allah's opinion of us. And now what about people? The people around us. The first thing to notice is some people's opinion of you will be negative no matter what. Some people just won't like you no matter what you do. And you all have friends like this in school or colleagues like this at work where whatever you do, you just can't seem to win them over. Like you could, I don't know, you could buy them a bouquet of flowers if you want, or depending on who it is. You could buy them ice cream, chocolates, you can do whatever you want. You can be the nicest person in the world to them, they just won't like you. If somebody constantly has a negative opinion of you, if somebody, no matter what you do, no matter how nice you are, no matter how much you interact with them or not, you'll find people who you've never even met don't like you for what odd reason you don't know. But you'll find people like that in your life, and that happens to everyone. You'll realise that their opinions really don't matter, because no matter what you do, you can't change their opinion. But what do I mean by this? No matter what you do, you can't change their opinion, right? We have to realise there's two people involved in this opinion. There's you and the person who holds the opinion, right? So you put out an image and that person decides what they think of that. That person decides what that image is for them, what they believe. So you could, for instance, you could just be coming to the mosque to pray, coming to the mosque for Majlis, coming to the mosque for, Milad, coming, sitting here, doing your own thing, going home, and in their head, they've decided, oh, that guy thinks he's so religious, he thinks he's so good. Well, there's nothing you can do if someone holds an opinion like that. You're just doing whatever it is you do, and they're deciding on their own what they think of you. Here's the thing. When somebody's opinion is going to be negative no matter what, we don't care about what they think. Because nothing you do can change their opinion. But it's important to make sure that we don't let those opinions get to us, right? An opinion of somebody, it can only hurt you if it lets you. You know, there's the old adage, sticks and stones may break my bones, but nothing you say will hurt me. There's a big kind of wave towards that's not true, because words have an impact and they do hurt. But at the same time, they only hurt you as much as you let them. And that doesn't mean that if somebody's taking the mick out of you, or somebody's saying stuff that hurts you, or that you don't like, that you just have to deal with it and that you just have to kind of sweep it under the rug and get on. That's not what that means. But what it does mean is realize whose words matter, right? If your parents say something, that matters. If your parents give an opinion on you, that's a matter, that's an opinion that holds some weight. Why? Because your parents care about you. Your parents want what is best for you. So their opinion of you already goes through those hurdles of looking at you in a positive light, in a positive manner. Your parents don't want to see you in a bad way. That's why your mum will always say you look handsome, because your mum can never see you in any other light, right? So if there's some kind of opinion on you from your parents, just understand that they first made sure that they see you in the best light possible, and then they form that opinion. That opinion is there to make the best out of you, to get the best out of you, for your own good, right? And it's the same with, for instance, our brothers and sisters, and then our true friends. We spoke earlier in the series about what true friend is like. Our true friends are the same. The opinions they hold are only for the betterment of us. Now, your friends will take the mick out of you. Cool. Your friends will laugh at your expense. Cool. This stuff happens. When they're true friends, though, the real opinions, the real things that matter, and the real things that count, you can tell there's a difference between them just having a laugh and them actually telling you something that matters and something that holds weight. And these opinions, they're all sorts, they're floating around. And like we said, we can only affect certain things about an opinion, right? But at the same time, we recognize some people's opinions you just can't change, but we have to maintain that we have to present ourselves in the best light possible. We have to present ourselves in the best way we can. Recite Muhammad Muhammad So, when you put the best version of yourself out there, and other people still take a bad opinion of you, then that's their problem. It's not your problem anymore. Why? Because you put the best version of yourself out there. You did the best you could and made sure you know, when you stepped out of the house, you looked good, you put on some perfume, you smelled good. Image-wise, you put the best image of yourself out there. But this applies to everything as well, right? People don't just hold opinions of you based on how you look. For instance, if a lot of you guys might have felt this, where you feel like your teacher just doesn't like you. I don't know why my teacher doesn't like me. You know, my teacher hates me for whatever reason, some random unknown reason. I mean, you never do your homework, never do your assignments, you're late to class, you know, mess around and whatnot. I don't get why my teacher doesn't like me. It doesn't make any sense. And all of us go through this. I was exactly the same. I used to think, I have no idea why my teachers don't like me. I used to think, like, none of my teachers in school like me. I'm not sure why, not sure what it is. I had about 6 detentions a day, but I didn't know why. If I look back now, they were all entirely my fault. I can see very clearly why. But at that moment, why not? Well, I mean, I'm not giving them much of a reason to like me, am I? I'm not giving them much of a reason to think the best of me. So when it comes to, for instance, doing my homework on time, or doing it at all rather, when my teacher set me something to do, some homework, and I didn't do it, and then all of a sudden I come into lesson, and that teacher is more favourable towards another student who did do it, you can see why that is, right? When your teacher, I don't know, for instance, when you show up late to class, or you're messing around in class, and your teacher seems to prefer other students. When I say seems to prefer, I mean, like, you know, they'll be more favourable to other students in terms of when they do something wrong. Now, this is one thing that used to really bug me, is that if I didn't bring in my homework, whatever it was, you know, straight away the teacher would be on my case. But my mates, if they didn't bring it, my teacher would be like, okay, that's fine, don't worry about it. Why? It's because 99% of the time they did bring it. I wasn't so good with it. Now here's the deal. If I was good with my homework, if I did always give my homework in on time and do the assignments and whatnot that my teacher told me to, then if I missed it once, fair enough, my teacher would cut me some slack, because normally I'm doing quite a good job. I've put a good image out there. I've presented myself well. I've given my teachers reason to think good of me, right? On the flip side, if I haven't, then there's not much that I'm doing to help myself. In the same way, when it comes to like going to places that are un-Islamic, or going to places that you shouldn't be going. For instance, I don't know, being seen in a pub on a Friday night. Being seen in a pub on a Friday night, here's the deal. Islamically, you might not be drinking. You might not be doing anything haram per se, just in the pub. You might not be having, like, I don't know, in the pubs, pork chops and chips or whatever it is. You might not be doing any of that. But the light you present yourself in by being in the pub, if somebody sees you, and this is one of the beauties of Islam as well, somebody sees you, you're presenting yourself in a bad light. You're giving them an opportunity to say something bad. At the same time, here's the flip side, Islamically. If I see somebody walking into a pub, a Muslim or mu'min, I have to give them the benefit of the doubt in my mind. This is the flip side to that, right? There's one person presenting the image of themselves. There's me who's perceiving that image. There's me who's forming an opinion on that person. And what I have to realize is, as a person who's making an opinion, I have to give them the benefit of the doubt. That's what Islam tells me I have to do. But the person whose opinion I'm forming, that's a very confusing way of saying it. The person doing whatever action it is that I'm forming opinion based on, their duty is to try and make sure that I have a good opinion. My duty is also to make sure I have a good opinion. Why? Islam wants us all to be seen in the best light. Islam wants us all to be shown in the best way. Now here's the deal. When it comes to presenting an opinion of yourself, and we're going to talk tomorrow about presenting a version of you that's not true. Presenting a version of yourself that isn't actually who you are. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. Presenting the best version of yourself, that's different. You know what I mean? You're you. No matter what changes, no matter what happens, you are you, and you know who you are better than anybody else. You know what goes on in your mind and in your heart better than anybody else, right? Don't change yourself, but put forward the best version of yourself. Still you, but in every aspect, they're the best version of yourself. In every aspect, they're the best way you can be. And then we have to look at the kind of final few things that we're going to look at when it comes to posting online and the image we put out there of ourselves. One is that we have to keep our sins private, and it feeds off of this same thing. Putting a good image out there of yourself, you have to keep your own sins private. The bad things you do, you keep them to yourself. Like if I were to sit here and go, right guys, I want everybody to go one by one and tell me the most haram thing you've ever done. Nobody's going to say anything. You know what I mean? Why? Because you don't want people to know that. You don't want people to know the bad things you've done or that you do or that goes on in your life. There's a reason it goes on behind closed doors, right? Because it's embarrassing. You don't want people to know about it. In fact, Allah Azza wa Jalla says in Surah Al-Hujurat, Ayah 12, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, O you who have believed, avoid much negative assumption, so, avoid thinking the worst of people. And then Allah goes on to say, indeed, some assumption is a sin. Some bad things that you think of people are a sin. And don't spy or backbite on each other. So, it's fairly self-explanatory. Don't spy on each other. So don't keep kind of peering or looking for something bad in someone. And then don't backbite either. So if you're presenting the best image of yourself and you're hiding your sins, then you take away the opportunity for people to do all these things, to spy on you, to try and look for bad things within you, to try and backbite about you. And like we say, some people will do it regardless, but now it's on them. You hold no responsibility anymore. Allah Azza wa Jalla himself, one of his titles is Sattar al-Uyub. He is who? He's the hider of our sins, the hider of our aibs. And aib is something, it's not necessarily a sin, but it's something bad within us. It's something bad. Allah Azza wa Jalla hides those things within us which are bad. And one of the scariest things about the Day of Judgment is that on that day, all our actions are going to be there for all to see. Everyone can see the good and the bad that you did on that day. So if you did just good, then that's great. But remember, everyone's going to see the bad that you did as well. That's a scary thought. For the very simple reason that you don't want people to see the bad side of you, right? You don't want people to see the bad things you did. And take a step, back from that. You don't want people to see the vulnerable side of you oftentimes, right? That's not something bad about you. That's not something bad you've done. It's just, it's not something you want everyone to see. It's something private to you. The things that upset you or the things that hurt you. It's not something bad. It's not something bad about you. But at the same time, you don't want people to see that because that's private. It's private to you. Allah Azza wa Jalla here, he's talking about hiding sins, hiding the wrong we do, hiding the bad things we do. When you post, you have to be careful about what you're posting, right? Some people, the things they post are just outright haram. Other people, when they post, it gives you an insight into who they are, into what they're doing, into what their lives are like. And you can see more about a person from their post than you realize. A lot of people will tell you that, you know what, you can't tell who I am from what I'm posting. It's not necessarily true. You can tell a lot about what's going through a person's mind at a particular time based on what they're posting, what they're thinking based on what they're posting, what they're doing based on what they're posting. And obviously there's the safety and security of not posting sensitive information, things like that. That's obvious. Like, don't post your address online. Don't post, pictures of your bank card online or whatnot. Obviously, don't do stuff like that. But there's also what we say just about ourselves, also what we say and what we do just about what we're thinking, right? And oftentimes, those of you who are a bit older and who've got Twitter and things like that, you'll see people use it as like a personal diary. But here's the thing, you don't ever let anyone read your diary. Your diary's for you, it's for nobody else. But all of a sudden, online, people post all sorts. People post anything at all. And you start to see what they're posting, and it gives you an insight into their life, it gives you an insight into what they're doing. And they forget that there's people, like real people on there. This is why I was itching. There's real people on their Twitter. There's real people seeing their posts on their Instagram, on their Snap. And there's people there who care about them. There's people, like we spoke about earlier, who don't like them. Not only don't they care about them, but they dislike them actively. There's people there who know you in real life, you have an image of you in real life, and they see you online, right? It's something we're going to talk about in more depth tomorrow as well. In those people that are completely different online than they are offline. And a lot of you will have seen your friends like that who, they are one way in real life, but online, that's a completely different person. Like online, you don't even know who that is. Completely different personality. And we're going to look more into depth about that tomorrow. But don't forget, there's real people. They care about you. In the same way your actions and words have an impact in real life, they do online as well. And the last thing I want to kind of focus on here is this notion that only Allah can judge you. We see it a lot. Somebody will Masalan, somebody will post something they shouldn't have, it goes viral, everyone starts, attacking them or getting after them, And even when people try and correct them in a respectful manner, well, it isn't always. The response is very often the same. Only Allah can judge me, only Allah knows my intentions, only Allah can judge you on the day of judgment. In real life, people judge you, whether you like it or not. It's true, people do judge you. Allah is the ultimate judge. Again, He's the hider of our faults. He's the Rayul. He's the one who hides the bad things we do. Why are you now going and putting them out there in front of everyone? We have to make sure that everything we do in accordance with Islam, right? And according to some beliefs in Islam, to openly speak of your sins, to openly tell people of your sins, that in itself is a sin. That in itself is you committing a gunaah. To openly show people that you're sinning. That's an additional level on the gunaah that you're doing. It's another sin on top of a sin. Why? Because you're almost boasting about it. Now there's another thing, for instance, like those guys who are like reformed and whatnot. There's another thing for them to use what they had in a past life and say, look, but I've changed. They're showing you that they've asked for forgiveness, they've changed, they don't commit those sins anymore. They've got some kind of purpose behind why they're saying what they're saying. They're talking about the forgiveness of Allah Azza wa Jalla. They're talking about why they no longer do what they did. They're using it as a role model, as an example. But people who openly flaunt their sins, people who kind of boast and brag about what they did, and people who they're not boasting, they're not bragging, they're just saying what they did because they feel like nobody's reading it on their Twitter, or nobody's reading it on their Insta, nobody's checking what they post on their story. Those people are, whether they realize it or not, increasing the value of the sin they did. And what I mean by that is they're making the sin more of a sin by being brazen about it, by being so nonchalant about it. And this is one of the biggest tactics of Shaitan, in that he makes you think that your sins aren't a big deal. You'll be committing a sin or what, you'll be about to do something and you'll think, oh, I shouldn't do that. And then there'll be that sort of thought in your head that it's not really a big deal, like Allah won't care about that, really, will He? That's not much of an issue. But no, Allah does, right? We say our small deeds matter, so the small little things that you do that are good, they matter like massively. You don't realize how important those small little deeds are. It works in the same way in the opposite direction. Those things that you think is just a small sin, it's just a little, just a white lie. Oh, lying, that's gunahan kabir, that's the greatest sin, one of the worst sins. But this notion of it's a little white lie, it's not a big deal, it's just something casual still, one that you can sweep under the rug, Allah won't care about it, that's not how it works. To try and make those sins smaller, to try and reduce the impact and the effect of those sins is in and of itself, in certain situations, a sin. And it increases the gunaah that you get, it increases the punishment that you get. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says in the Quran, it's very well known. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. For every atom's weight of good you do, you will feel it, you will see it. And for every atom's weight of bad you do, you will feel it, you will see it, you will receive the punishment and the reward for every atom's weight. Now think about an atom's weight, there's no weight to an atom. Something we can't see with our own eyes without a microscope. Allah Azza wa Jalla accounts for each and every one of those atoms' weights of good and bad that we do. Now on the one side, it's amazing. Every tiny little thing I do that is good, that's great. I'm able to receive the reward for it. But on the flip side, everything I do that's bad, everything I do that's wrong, Allah Azza wa Jalla is counting that as well. We have to be wary of that, we have to remember that. And as I speak about the good that we do, it's another point. Don't dilute the good that you do by boasting about it online. Don't dilute the good things that you do by showing off about it. Now there's different reasons why people post about what they do online. Masalan, if somebody's raising money for charity and they're posting about that, they're doing it so that they can increase how much money they raise for charity. That's not showing off, that's trying to do a good deed by telling people about what you're doing. Or for instance, when something is happening, there's, I don't know, something like social activism or something like that, and somebody comes forward and openly says, yeah, I'm supporting this. They very well might not be doing it to show off. Very well might not be doing it to boast about it. They might just be doing it so that other people see them doing it and join in that cause to increase what people are doing, to increase other people's good actions. It comes back to niyyah. But don't forget, with the niyyah, the action matters as well. You could have a good intention in what you post, but if what you're posting is wrong, if what you're posting is incorrect, then that has consequences. And those consequences ultimately come down to Allah Azza wa Jal to decide what He does with those consequences, what He does with your actions, how He responds to you, how He rewards or punishes you. So when we're posting online, when we're looking at what we're posting, we have to be very careful about making sure that what we post, A, is in line with Islam. We have to be very careful that B, it doesn't impact the people around us in our lives, because they will see it. We have to make sure C, we're presenting the best image out there of ourselves, the best image possible. And if we're doing these things, and if we can justify why we're doing these things, then khair. At the end of the day, when Allah Azza wa Jalla asks you the question, why did you do this? You have the justification. You're able to say, oh Allah, I did it for this reason and for this reason, and I did it in this way because of this, and I knew that this was the outcome. I knew that this is what would happen. Or maybe you did something and you didn't know the outcome, but if you can tell Allah Azza wa Jalla on that day when you're asked, this is the reason I did it, this is why I did it, this is how I did it, and you're comfortable and confident that that is Islamically correct, then khair. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He is all forgiving, all understanding. Recite aloud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
All the young people, can you please recite a loud salawat together?
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Tonight, we remember the son of Imam Hassan al-Mushtaba alayhi salatu wassalam. We remember the son of our second Imam, Hazrat Qasim ibn Hassan. See, throughout these days of Muharram, we remember different personalities. And in the first few nights, it can be quite a variety of different personalities we remember. Sometimes you'll hear about Hazrat Habib ibn Mazahir, sometimes you'll hear about Hazrat John, sometimes you'll hear about Hazrat Pur. But there's certain names that you will always hear as we come to the latter days of this first Ashra. You'll always hear about Hazrat Aman Muhammad, you'll always hear about Hazrat Qasim, about Hazrat Ali Akbar, about Hazrat Abbas, about Hazrat Ali Asghar. Why? These are some of those deaths that hurt our Imam Hussein alayhi salam the most. These are some of those deaths that caused our Imam the most pain. When we look at the pain and patience of our Imam, I said it yesterday, I'll say it again, it doesn't mean it didn't hurt our Imam. No, these hurt our Imam more than anything else. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, if you look in the history books, he cried over and over again over these deaths. But Hazrat Qasim is that personality that while Qasim was still alive, Imam Hussein cried in Karbala for Qasim ibn Hassan. See, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, just like Sayyidah Zainab, went through many hardships, many pains. We talk about Sayyidah Zainab losing Rasulullah. We talk about Sayyidah Zainab losing her mother Fatima, her mother Zahra. We talk about her losing her father Imam Ali. We talk about her losing Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You think Imam Hussein alayhi salam didn't also feel the pain? Imam Hussein alayhi salam used to play in the courtyards with Rasulullah. He used to jump on his shoulders, jump on his back. When Rasulullah leaves this world, Imam Hussein alayhi salam is devastated. When Sayyidah Zahra leaves this world, Imam Hussein wraps himself around the body of his mother so much so, he cries so much that the angels come down to Imam Ali and say, Ali, there is chaos in the heavens, remove the children from Zahra. When Hassan al-Mujtaba is killed, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he loses that final person above him. First, he had his mother Zahra and his father Ali and the Prophet Muhammad, but now all of a sudden, everybody who he turned to for support has left him. Everybody around him now is younger than him. He's the Imam of his time. Now he's the person supporting everybody, but everybody needs somebody to turn to. Everybody needs somebody to share their pain with. Imam Hussein alayhi salam would turn to his older brother Hassan. He would turn to his big brother when his father wasn't there anymore. When he needed Zahra, he would turn to Hassan. When he needed the Prophet, he would turn to Hassan. So when the final few days of the life of Imam Hassan alayhi salam arrived, Imam Hussein alayhi salam was in a state of pain. He wanted to take care of his brother as much as he could. He wanted to make sure nothing ever happens to Imam Hassan, that his pain isn't increased in any way, shape or form. So there comes the moment where Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he is lying there on his deathbed. Imam Hassan alayhi salam was killed by poison. The poison ate up his insides. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, in that deathbed, would vomit into this tray, and in that vomit, when he would throw up bits of his flesh, organs from inside him would come out into the tray. Imam Hassan alayhi salam was in great pain. His chest was constantly burning. He complained of this to his family. He told them, this is the pain I'm going through. There comes a time where a small boy by the name of Qasim runs into the room where Imam Hassan is. He jumps onto his father's chest and begins playing with Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Imam Hussein, seeing this, rushes in. He goes to Qasim, come let your father rest. His chest is already hurting very much. His chest is burning. Qasim, don't disturb your father anymore. In this moment, Imam Hassan ibn Mujtaba turns to Imam Hussein. He says, Hussein, having Qasim on my chest, it does not hurt me at all. Qasim on my chest is the aram. Qasim on my chest is the peace and comfort that I need to get me through this pain. My heart tells me it might be this very reason that from the moment she was born, Mawla Hussein told Sakina, at night when you sleep on your father's chest, because he saw what Qasim did for Hassan. Hussein knew the pain that he had to go through. He needed the sukoon, he needed the comfort of Sakina. Imam Hussein lets Qasim play on the chest of Imam Hassan ibn Mujtaba. He understood that there is a great relationship between Imam Hassan and his son. A father and their son have great relationships regardless. But you'll see, when a father sees that his son is going to carry his legacy, when a father sees that his son is going to go into, masalan, his own family business, whatever the father excelled in, the son is doing it in the same way, he's doing it even better, the love between that father and that son grows even greater, that connection grows even stronger, but that father needs to be there to advise his son. That father needs to be there to support his son, to guide him through the difficulties of life. Imam Hassan ibn Mujtaba was not there to guide Qasim ibn Hassan through life. Instead, Hazrat Qasim's mother, Bibi Farwa, took on that role. A single mother taking care of her child. She cares about Qasim very much. Why? She knows if Qasim has any pain, if there is something hurting Qasim, he does not have a father to turn to. See, a mother, when she has to raise a child on her own, the love she has for her child grows even more. She becomes even more protective over that child. In the battlefield of Karbala, in that land of Karbala, you will only find 2 times where a mother complained that her child was crying. One is Bibi Farwa when Qasim cries. The other is Bibi Rabab when she turns to Sayyida Zainab and says, Zainab, look, my Sakina is crying. Sayyida Zainab turns to Rabab on that night of Sham Gharima. She says, Rabab, do not say anything to Zainab. There is nothing Zainab can do. My Abbas has left me. Zainab is alone now. Bibi Farwa, when she sees Qasim crying, her heart trembles, her heart aches. She calls Qasim to her. She says, Qasim, tell me, why are you crying? It is the day of Ashura. Qasim, what is the matter? Hazrat Qasim says to his mother, I keep going to my uncle Hussein and asking for permission. But every time I ask for permission to go to the battlefield, he sends me back and he says the same thing again and again. Bibi Farwa says, Qasim, tell me, what does your uncle Hussein say? He looks at his mother Farwa and he says, every time I miss my brother Hassan, every time I need my big brother in my life, Qasim, I look at you. If you leave for the battlefield, Qasim, who will I turn to when I need help? Who will Hussein turn to when he needs support? Bibi Farwa, she stops for a moment, she thinks. She tells Qasim, Qasim, wait. Before your father left this world, he left you a letter. He told me there will come a time where my Qasim will be in great pain. There will come a time where my Qasim will need me. He will need my support and my guidance. In that moment, give Qasim this letter. Hazrat Qasim takes the letter from his mother. He opens it, he reads it. Qasim, who a moment ago was crying, he begins to laugh and he begins to smile. He runs to his uncle Hussein. He shows the letter to Abu Abdullah. As Hussein reads the letter, tears begin to drop from his eyes onto that letter of his brother Hassan. Imagine what Imam Hussein is seeing. After all these years, he's seen the handwriting of his brother Hassan. He's seen something of his brother again. Now Imam Hussein looks at what is written in the letter. The first thing it says, Ya Akhi Hussein, a letter for Qasim, addressed to Hussein. It says, Hussein, my brother, there will come a time where you will be alone. You will be away from your home in a strange land. You will have nobody to help you. Hussein, when that time comes, take Qasim as Hassan Sadaqah. Take Qasim on behalf of Hassan Mujtaba. In that moment, let Qasim do whatever needs to be done to help you, Hussein. Here, in this one letter, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he shows how great of a father he was and how great of a brother. In that one letter, he gave Qasim the help he needs in his most difficult moments. He gave Hussein the support he needs in his most difficult times. Mawla Hussein begins crying and begins weeping, to the point that the history books narrate as Mawla Hussein is reading this letter, he falls to the floor unconscious. My heart tells me in that moment, Hassan Mujtaba must have come to Hussein himself. He must have come to Hussein and said, my brother Hussein, the time is near. Soon you will be reunited with me. Soon my mother Zahra will come to meet you herself. Soon Ali and Murtaza will stand with you at the gates of heaven. But first, Hussein, send my Qasim back to me. First, Hussein, send my Qasim to his father. I have missed my child very much. Mawla Hussein, once he comes back to consciousness, he tells Bibi Farwa, Farwa, take out some new clothes for Qasim. Take out some clothes for Qasim to wear. If Hussein will send Qasim back to Hassan, he will not do it in the same dry kurta. He will not do it in the same dusty clothes of the sand of Karbala. No, Qasim will wear new clothes. Qasim will have his hair combed. Qasim will go looking like the prince that he is. Bibi Farwa changes the clothes of Qasim. She gets him ready. He then takes him to Abu Abdullah. Mawla Hussein says, Qasim, your mother got you ready for death. Hussein will get you ready for battle. Imam Hussein, he picks up an armor, a body armor for Hazrat Qasim to wear. The point of a body armor is this. It has two main uses. One is that when you are struck by a sword, spear or an arrow, it will absorb the blow. It won't let you be hurt. The other is in the time of battle on the backs of the horse. When somebody was defeated in battle, what would happen? They would fall from their horse. As they fall from their horse, the horses would rush around. If you are wearing a metal body armor, the hooves of the horse will not crush your bones. Imam Hussein takes one armor and places it on Qasim. But Qasim is only a small boy. The armor is too big for him. Imam Hussein takes it off. He tries another. Again, it is too big for him. Imam Hussein tries a third. Again, it is too big for Qasim. Qasim looks at Imam Hussein. He says, look, I am the grandson of Haydar Qarrar. If I have to go without any armor, I will go without any armor. It was just one night ago where Qasim told us what death means to him. What did he say? He said, if we are on the right path, death to me is sweeter than honey. Now Qasim mounts the horse. As he mounts the horse, it is narrated that the stirrups of the horse where you would put your feet, the stirrups of the saddle where you would put your feet, that was there for every single person. It was there for Qasim ibn Hassan as well, but this boy is so young. His feet do not reach the stirrups of the saddle. What does that mean for Qasim? It means that when you are riding on your horse, you have nothing to balance you. When you are riding on your horse, there is nothing to stop you falling this way or that. Qasim is mounted atop the horse. He rides out towards the armies. As he rides out towards the armies, he starts attacking them. But in the days of warfare, in those days, how did the battles happen? First, one person would approach you at a time. You would fight one-on-one. There is a soldier by the name of Azraq. He is in the army of Yazid. They tell him, Azraq, go, defeat this child from Hussein's army. What does Azraq say? He says, this is just a child. I am a great soldier. Why would I worry myself with him? Azraq sends his youngest son to battle Qasim. But Qasim is the nephew of Abbas. Qasim is the grandson of Haydar Qarrar. He sends the son of Azraq to hell. Azraq sends his second son. Qasim sends him to hell. When the third son of Azraq falls from his horse, now this soldier, fully grown, trained in battle, rushes towards Qasim, attacks the son of Hassan. Qasim fights a fierce battle, but as Azraq advances, so does the rest of the army. army. They surround this young boy in the battlefield. He could not see the tents anymore. He can't see his uncles Hussein and Abbas watching him anymore. He can't see the alam of Abbas looking over him anymore. Now Qasim is truly alone. Now Qasim has nobody left to look after him, to look out for him. All he sees around him are arrows and spears. At one point Qasim is struck in the head. As he is struck, Qasim begins to fall from his horse. As he falls from his horse, he calls out to Mawla Hussein. He calls out for his uncle's help. Aba Abdullah, when he hears that call, it is not the voice of Qasim that he hears saying, Hussein, come and help me. In that moment, Hussein hears his brother Hassan calling out, Hussein, Hussein, my Qasim needs you. Abu Fadl Abbas and Abu Abdullah Hussein, this is their nephew. They care about Qasim very much. For them, Qasim is all that is left of their big brother Hassan. They immediately mount their horses and descend on the battlefield. They ride out towards the armies of Yazid. They're looking for Qasim. They want to help him, but the armies of Yazid see Hussein and Abbas riding towards them. They see the anger in their eyes. They begin to become afraid. They start to worry. They become scared. The armies of the left flank descend upon the right flank. The armies of the right rush towards the left. There is chaos in the battlefield. The dust of Karbala rises as the armies rush from side to side. As the dust settles, Mawla Hussein riding out towards the battlefield. What does he see? Blood spattered across the sand. Organs spread all over the battlefield. He comes to a point where the body of Qasim lays. The body of Qasim is there on the sand, but no longer intact. Every bone ripped from every bone. Every limb ripped from its socket. Every socket ripped from itself. Hussein looks at Qasim. He turns towards Medina. He calls out, Hassan, forgive your brother Hussein. I wanted to help Qasim, but I arrived too late. Mawla Hussein, with every single body, he would turn to Abbas and together they would lift the body and bring him back to the tents. But in this moment, there is no body left to lift. How can Hussein lift the pieces of Qasim's body? What does Mawla Hussein do? He takes the Aba, the cloak, off from his back. He lays it out on the sands of Karbala, one by one, as the armies of Yazid watch. Hussein ibn Ali walks around the battlefield, picking up the pieces of Qasim's body, bringing them back into the cloak. He begins to wrap up the cloak and ties it shut. He takes that cloak back to the tents. As he reaches the tents, Bibi Farwa is there waiting for Hussein ibn Ali. She is there waiting for Qasim ibn Hassan. She is there watching the eyes of Abu Fadl Abbas. When she sees Imam Hussein return, she rushes up to the Imam. She says, my Imam, forgive me. Every time you went to the battlefield after being called, you brought back a body from the battlefield. Tell me what happened, that you have left Qasim out amongst the armies of Yazid. Mawla Hussein says, Farwa, Hussein did not leave Qasim out there. Qasim has not been left in the battlefield. He takes the cloak, he lays it out on the sand, he undoes the knot he tied, and as the cloak of Hussein unfurls, the body of Qasim, the pieces of his body collapse out onto the sand. Farwa falls to the ground. She calls out, Shukran Lillah. The women and children cry over Qasim ibn Hassan. Ala la'natullahi ala qawmi az-zalimin. فَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلِبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ. We pray to Allah Azza wa Jal. Oh Allah, accept all our ibadat in this holy month of Muharram. Oh Allah, allow us. Oh Allah, for all Muslims around the world who are ill, grant them complete health and shifa. Oh Allah, for all those marhumeen who have left us, grant them a rank amongst the highest ranks of Jannah. Oh Allah, hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time. Allow us to stand alongside him and to enter Jannah under his banner. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع الدعاء.